None of us content creators can post actual build guides in the current state of the game. We do not have access to the actual skill tree, so therefore there will not be any build guides until we have everything ready to go. Now, I spoke to Local Identity, and it looks like once we have access to the pre-download torrent file, hopefully we'll have a pseudo-functional POB with a skill tree quite fast after that. So my plan is to basically get the written guides out as soon as I can, thanks to my right-hand man, Mr. Lolash. You'll find a ton of build guides up on the site. Links to that will be in the descriptions down below. But today I wanted to talk about the Skeleton Archer build guide idea that we ran back in 0.2 as a ritualist. And I want to talk about that because we think that it's going to be very similar in 0.3 based on the information we have. So even without knowing the skill tree, there's not going to be that much deviation, and that should present a really good quality performing approach to it. Let's check out what I'm talking about. Essentially, the original idea with playing a ritualist is because we're starting on this side of the tree, which allowed us to get some extra movement speed nodes. This is very important simply because of the fact that we did not get any movement speed from something like the Bones of Ullerboots. Can you please show the tooltip for me? Apparently he doesn't want to. How about I double click it? Here we go. No movement speed. But as of 0.3 patch, we are indeed getting movement speed on the boots, which means that we feel less, let's call it, forced into the role of playing a ritualist to make a skeletal archer build feel very enjoyable. But obviously there's other reasons as to why we're doing a ritualist, and I'm going to walk you guys through that in a little TLDR fashion. First and foremost, there's some Ascendancy nodes changing. These two will be baked into one, which means we'll have two more Ascendancy nodes, which will very likely just be chucked into Wildwood Persistence because we don't really care too much. However, the idea is to lower our mana and grab Unfurled Finger Butthole. So we get an extra ring slot, and then we get this one, which is 25% increased bonuses gained from equipped rings and amulets. This allows us to run 3 rings, which we're ramping up. On top of that, we're ramping up the efficiency of our amulets. We're also getting some extra movement speed, which we, despite Bones of Uller providing that now in 0.3, will still be a very, very attractive choice because now we can move even faster. We're also running this as Evasion and Energy Shield with CI, which I'll talk about in a bit. But the 3 rings we're running in this example in the build guide is an Unset ring and 2 Ever Grasping rings. And these are scaled with these efficiencies from the actual ascendancies. And essentially what it's doing is our allies in presence are dealing percent of their damage as extra chaos damage, and enemies in presence will gain 10% of their damage as extra chaos damage, which doesn't do any damage to us because we're chaos inoculation. We have 1 max HP and are completely immune to chaos damage, so the downside is completely voided. So that's the idea of how this build is running. We do have an old guide for 0.2, so you can check that out for the entire details around the build of how it was designed. But in 0.3, a lot of things will change. Obviously, we'll be having some optimizations and skill changes. So I want to point that out, which is, again, why this is a build idea more so than a build guide. So I want to emphasize and repeat myself about that many times over. So as you can see, this is how the tree looks, where we're picking up some minion nodes. Obviously, we're going for the Lord of Horror section, some energy shield. We are taking some Fist as extra chaos damage. We're running some minion defenses and resistances up here, as well as the Dark Entity level of chaos skills, because the Skeletal Archer is tagged with both chaos and fire, as an example. However, we have some accuracy nodes. We won't need accuracy nodes. They will be completely removed in the new tree. And we also have nodes like this, which is giving us energy shield as well as evasion based off our current state of the gear, where we're running about 70% evasion, packing that with energy shield, running ghost stance, where when we finally do get hit, we then recover a % of our energy shield based off our evasion. And that's kind of nice. So that's how we sustain the build whilst we're playing, whilst running an entropy-based defensive system such as the evasion, which is really nice. I actually really like this. The defensive layer is extremely attractive. So what's going to happen in 0.3 then? Obviously, we will see some skill support gem changes. We will definitely see some skill tree, passive tree changes. But most importantly, I feel like we wanted to point out that it's not really going to be identical in the long run. And the reason it's not going to be identical is because of the introduction of the mechanic deflection. Deflection is going to offer us the possibility of taking reduced damage, which we can scale up to 100% chance for this to happen. And that deflection modifier based on 0.3 patch notes is ridiculously strong. It's very likely that we're going to add that to the build. Not guaranteed, but very likely. It's also something I want to point out, which the build guide does cover, is that it's not really comfortable to level as minions with a Ritualist. You might want to look into leveling with something else. In 0.2, that was obviously doing lightning spear and shenanigans and whatnot. You could do that, but you kind of want to level with something else or level it up as a second character if that's the more desirable approach where you can level with minions. I did it as my second character. I also tried leveling it as a brand new character without having twink gear on it, and it was all right as long as I didn't go minions, because that was a pain in the ass to do. So again, I wouldn't recommend league starting this and going straight into the idea of, hey, I'm going to play a Ritualist, I'm going to go minions from start to finish. Please don't do that. So level as something else and then transition into it when you have the necessary gear. So in this example, we do have two different budget setups. Again, this is from the 0.2 version, so this is an outdated guide as of Friday launch. But we're running something like carry and call to help the minions have some layers of defenses until you're leveled enough to cover this. With some low level gear, there's some gear priority orders and whatnot in this section. As you then get better gearing, you want to run something like a sun splinter for plus level of fires or for plus level of lightning. Well, ideally with +2 lightning spell. So that's kind of what you want to run. You want to scale up the fire. We have some ES evasion gear. For example, we're running an energy shield helmet, but we're running a hybrid chest and we're running ES gloves. The guide is going to cover this in detail again for the old 0.2 version, but do check it out in the descriptions below. So why do I think that this is going to be effective? And the very simple reason is this is scaling such a tremendous amount of damage, and the removal of accuracy being taken away. I'm very confident that that combined with the defensive focus on making evasion even stronger in a state where evasion was ridiculously strong as it was in the 0.2, I feel like after taking a glance on the pictures of the current 0.3 tree that we have access to, which is basically just a bunch of lines and pictures, and we can't even hover over them to get any information. But what we can do is tell that these nodes over here are reservation nodes, or aura nodes, or presence nodes, or spirit nodes. And they're located here, they're over here, there's another one here, there's another big cluster right in the middle of the minion stuff right there, which we do happen to be pathing by on this skill tree. I mentioned earlier that this one gives accuracy, which is going to be changed as all accuracy for minions is gone. So there's quite a few changes to this. It's going to be quite exciting to see what they're actually doing. But the fact that accuracy is taken away means that your skeletal archers will actually be significantly more effective at longer range targets, which will increase the clear efficiency by default, especially on the lower geared states of this build. That's why I think that this build will be very effective to play, and I'm quite excited to play this. It was actually one of my favorite builds to play outside of the Storm Mages for 0.2, and again, I just have a very high confidence in this being a performing approach in 0.3. And again, that's all I can say. I don't have any build guides ready for you guys, but all I have is build ideas. Hit the like button, subscribe for more content. I will see you guys in the next one, and good luck on the launch. Till then, stay safe and keep rocking.